Hey guys, welcome back to the video. I'm Luke, an ACA qualified accountant, having passed all 15 of my ACA exams at the first attempt while studying at a Big Four firm. And then after my time at the Big Four, I transitioned into a career within investment banking, and I now spend my days helping current candidates pass their ACA exams. And in today's video, we're going to discuss some tips and some advice to help you prepare and study towards the advanced level corporate reporting exam. Now, CR is likely going to be the first advanced level exam you're going to sit, and it's probably seen as the last big hurdle you need to overcome before qualification. It's kind of a bit of a blend of financial accounting and reporting and audit and assurance. I would say corporate reporting is made up of 60% accounting topics and 40% audit and assurance topics, and it's a tough exam. A lot of candidates say it's the hardest exam that they face on the qualification. I personally found BPT to be the most challenging exam, but a lot of candidates find CR very technically demanding and conceptually challenging. When it comes to the advanced level, candidates tend to find SPM and case study a little bit more straightforward, and corporate reporting to be the most difficult exam at this level. The pass rate for corporate reporting hovers around the 75 to 80% pass mark range. So look, around a quarter of candidates fail this exam, so it's definitely not straightforward. It definitely requires a lot of work and preparation to get right. But once it's done, this is your final accounting exam. So once you get past corporate reporting, you never have to do an accounting exam again in your life. So hopefully that's something to look forward to. And if you are someone that's studying CR, SPM and case study all together, that once you get past this sitting of exams, you're done, you're ACA qualified. So if you're finding preparation for this exam challenging, don't worry, you're definitely not alone. A lot of candidates will be feeling the exact same way as you are right now. But the good news is the finish line is so close, you can almost taste it. In terms of what the exam structure looks like, the exam is made up of 3 requirements. The first question is often referred to as the mini case study. It comprises 40 marks, so 40% of the total marks on the paper, and it's a mix of accounting and audit and assurance. Question 2 is worth 30 marks. That focuses exclusively on financial reporting and accounting. And the third question, again, 30 marks, 30% of the overall weighting. That's a mix, but typically slightly more weighted towards audit and assurance. So think of that as the audit focused question. To do well in this exam, you need to be strong in both accounting and audit. You can't be good and competent at just accounting and trying to wing the audit section. You need to be pretty strong in both areas to do well in this exam. So over the course of this video, we'll run through some tips and some advice to help structure your study and revision schedule and hopefully make you feel a little bit more confident going into the corporate reporting exam on exam day. So yeah, let's get started. So my first piece of advice when it comes to doing well in corporate reporting is around time management. Time management is absolutely everything in corporate reporting. If you want to do well in this exam and you want to pass it, then you need to manage your time ruthlessly in the exam. Time mismanagement is the #1 reason why candidates fail the corporate reporting exam. You need to answer all 3 questions in full. You need to complete all 3 questions. You need to have answered every single sub-requirement to stand a chance of passing this exam. If you miss out even one requirement, one sub-requirement due to poor timing, your chances of failing the corporate reporting exam are going to increase dramatically. On exam day, as soon as you open up the exam paper and you see how many marks are attached to each question, you need to calculate how much time you have to answer each question. So for example, if question 1 is 40 marks, you'll have approximately 72 minutes to answer that question. If question 2 is 30 marks, you'll have 54 minutes to answer that question, and same again for question 3, you'll have 54 minutes there. You need to be completely clear on this, and you need to stick to those timings very strictly. You can't spend more time than you're allocated on question 1 and then run out of time for question 2 or question 3. Once your time is up for question 1, you need to move on to question 2 and question 3 straight away. Even if you feel there's more you could write, you have to move on. The biggest mistake that candidates make here is they try and chase perfection on the first question and then run out of time to answer question 2 and question 3. There are so many easy marks available for questions 2 and question 3 in corporate reporting that if you fail to get to those questions or fail to complete them, you risk losing out on so many straightforward marks, and this can be a really costly mistake in the context of the overall exam. Candidates who fail corporate reporting often write an amazing answer to question 1, literally the perfect answer, but they run out of time and underperform on question 2 and question 3. My second piece of advice to doing well in the corporate reporting exam is to refresh your professional level knowledge. Now, corporate reporting is an exam which builds directly on the back of financial accounting and reporting and audit and assurance. It builds on everything you've learned in those two professional level exams. What makes the advanced level a little bit different from the professional level is that it does introduce some new concepts, but it builds on a lot of the stuff that you learn on the professional level, and now you're looking to apply it to a greater degree. So you can't just forget everything you learn at the professional level in FAR and AA. You need to be on top of that material and still be able to recall it and remember it, because it's very much examinable here. A lot of the marks in corporate reporting will be based on the content that you learn at the professional level. This is all assumed knowledge now, so it's worth checking in to make sure you're still comfortable with all of that material before you start preparing for corporate reporting. Go back through the workbook and your study notes from FAR and AA. This is essential stuff. This is not optional. You do need to go back and make sure you're on top of all of that assumed knowledge from the professional level. Focus in on those key examinable areas that are almost guaranteed to be tested in corporate reporting, stuff like consolidation accounts, property, plant and equipment, intangible accounting, audit risks and procedures. These topics won't be retaught, and they're not going to be covered in great depth in the workbook. So it's your responsibility to relearn and make sure you're strong on those concepts. These topics regularly appear in corporate reporting exams, and they're typically not tested lightly either. Sometimes you can get questions which are worth 10 to 20 marks on those topics and other topics that you will have seen at the professional level. You need to be just as confident and competent when it comes to the stuff from the professional level now as you were then when you studied towards those exams. Also, it's important to refresh your core financial statement skills. You need to be able, again at this level, to prepare and adjust the three core financial statements, so income statement, balance sheet and cash flow statement. All of these types of financial statements can be tested at the advanced level in the exact same way that they were tested in financial accounting and reporting. So it's worth doing a few FAR question bank questions as part of your revision, just to get back into the flow of preparing financial statements and adjusting a set of financial statements. Group accounts are a major component of the corporate reporting syllabus, so revisit them thoroughly. This is all, again, assumed prior knowledge. So don't wait for your tutor or a revision course to cover it. You need to be on top of this stuff before you even open the corporate reporting textbook for the first time. The onus is definitely on you to refresh, revise, and be exam ready for all of these topics. My third piece of advice when it comes to doing well in corporate reporting is to always use a clear three-step process for making financial statement adjustments. In CR, you often be tasked with correcting and adjusting someone else's incorrect financial reporting. My go-to approach for adjusting incorrect financial statements is step one, identify what the reporting accountant did correctly. So what journal entry did they put through the financial statements which was incorrect? You need to identify that as a first port of call. Step two, state what the correct journal entry should have been. So look at what the correct debit and credit entry should have been, that should have gone through the financial statements. And step three, propose the correcting adjustment. So combine your analysis from step one and two and clearly explain in your answer what the correct journal entry should be. This three-step method allows you to follow a clear structure that the examiner can easily award marks for. You want to be making your thought process super clear in these kind of advanced level exams. Providing clear explanations shows that you have both the technical knowledge and the ability to practically correct incorrect financial statements. Journal entries are often explicitly asked for in the exam, so be prepared to write them down in your answer. You should be really comfortable with both debits and credits at this stage of the qualification. Understanding why a journal entry is wrong, what the correct journal entry should have been, and what the adjusting entry needs to be is pretty fundamental, so you need to be on top of that going into your corporate reporting exam. Make sure you get in a lot of practice with journal entries when answering mock exam questions, when doing question bank practice. Don't skip over journals. Always write out the journal entries when doing three-step corrections. Practice journal entries when you're doing your mock exams, when you're doing your question bank practice. Don't skip over them. Even if a question doesn't explicitly ask for you to provide journal entries in your answer, using them in your workings can help make sure the logic is clear for you when you're providing your answer. A structured three-step approach like this can help keep you focused, boost your marks, especially in these really high-pressured, time-constrained exams. My fourth tip to doing well in the corporate reporting exam is to prepare a plan for each requirement and sub-requirement. Now, unlike other exams in the ACA qualification where you can just dive straight into your answer and don't really need to plan, I think a plan can be really helpful for you in the corporate reporting exam. CR questions and scenarios are pretty big, they're information heavy, they contain a lot of detail, and if you don't plan, you risk missing out on key points, wasting time flipping back and forth between your answer, the scenario, the question you're being asked, like the requirement and the sub-requirement, and you also risk writing a disorganized, disjointed, incomplete answer. Making a plan for each requirement will help clarify your structure, keep track of the requirements, i.e. making sure you're answering each of the sub-requirements properly and in enough detail, and helps you stay efficient under the time pressure. So what I recommend doing is using the exam software to help build out your plan. So for every sub-requirement, I recommend making a new heading, and under each heading, jot down the key points that you want to cover off in your answer. So each sub-requirement gets its own heading, and under each heading, you just jot down 3 to 4 bullets of the key things that you want to touch upon in your answer and the key points from the scenario that you want to draw out. What you don't want to be doing is flicking back and forth between your answer and the scenario. It's just going to kill so much time when you could be writing. Once you go through the scenario for the first time, you jot down all the key points from the scenario and all the key things that you want to bring out in your answer, so that you don't have to keep flicking back and forth between the two, because it's not that easy in the exam software to juggle both your exam script and the question and the scenario. Even though producing a plan may feel like it slows you down up front, it will save you a hell of a lot of time in the long run. You'll write faster and more complete, accurate answers if you produce a plan before you put pen to paper and before you start writing your full answer. Planning may feel like a little bit of a chore, but it will 100% save you time, energy, and stress once you start writing your answer to the first sub-requirement. My fifth piece of advice when it comes to acing the corporate reporting exam is to use the open book wisely. Now, CR is a completely open book exam, which means you can take in anything you want to the exam, and this can be a bit of a blessing and a curse. So in your CR exam, you can take in your notes, so your workbook, your study manual, you can take in the question bank, you can take in mock exam papers, you can take in your IFRS standards, you can take in whatever you want. But just because you can take in absolutely anything doesn't mean you necessarily should. My advice is to know your notes and the workbook inside out before exam day. You should be able to navigate through your notes and the workbook instantly. You need to know where all of the key topics are located within your notes and the workbook. So deferred tax, PP, audit risk, you need to be able to locate them instantly, because you haven't got time to waste cognitive energy trying to remember what chapter of the workbook deferred taxes in. You just haven't got time to think through those kind of things in the exam. So if you need to, tab up your notes with coloured labels which will highlight where all the key sections of the material are. You could also build out your own contents page, which includes page references for all of the key sections. Whichever method works for you, whichever one's going to be quicker for you and more efficient in the exam. Both methods work well, but you need to do something to make sure your notes are well organised and easy to access on exam day. I also recommend sitting with your notes on your lap throughout the exam. It's a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit awkward, but you're going to need to refer to your notes 20 plus times in the exam, so you need to have them easily accessible, not off to the side, not underneath your desk. Just have them resting on your lap, have them to hand, and get access to the relevant sections without wasting any time. The CR exam is super intense and fast paced, so you need to be incredibly organised with your materials and be laser focused in your revision. Use the fact that you have access to an open book as a tool but not a crutch. You still need to know the content really well. You can't go in and expect to rely on your open book exclusively. You need to have good fundamental understanding of a lot of these topics, especially in the heavy, more technically demanding financial reporting areas of the curriculum. My next piece of advice is to not neglect the audit section of the corporate reporting exam, because look, it makes up 40% of the overall exam weighting, so it's pretty important. You need to know the audit and assurance topics well to pass this exam. Too many students ignore audit during corporate reporting revision. That's a huge mistake. I know a lot of the technically demanding areas of corporate reporting sit on the accounting side, but audit is still a major component of CR and something that you need to master. Audit accounts for 40% of this exam, so it's not a side topic. It's not an esoteric area of the corporate reporting syllabus, it's major. Like, you need to have a good understanding and be competent with the audit topics to succeed in this exam. The candidates that typically fail this exam either ignore or just completely deprioritize audit in favour of financial reporting. You cannot afford to solely focus on accounting in this exam. It only makes up 60% of the exam. So if you fail, completely flunk the audit side, you need to basically get everything right in the accounting side to pass the exam, which you're not going to do. Audit is heavily tested in the first and the third questions in the exam, especially topics like risks and procedures, review engagements, and ethical issues. So you need to go through your audit and assurance, question bank again, review and practice risk and procedure questions, because the style is near identical to what you're going to see in CR. You've seen all of this material before. CR doesn't really introduce much in terms of new audit and assurance content. So your objective is to refresh your memory from what you learn at the professional level, rebuilding your confidence in how to answer these kind of questions. Most candidates will underprepare audit and struggle with question 3. If you can do well on that question, you'll likely gain a major unfair advantage over those other candidates, because, like I said, most candidates won't be well prepared for the audit sections of this exam. So if you can get well prepared, you're going to stand a really, really good chance of passing. My final piece of advice for doing well in corporate reporting is to pace yourself and not to panic. CR is a 3.5 hour long exam. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. 3.5 hours is a long, long time to sit an exam. So you need to be patient, you need to build up good exam stamina, and you need to be resilient to get through this exam. Don't rush the paper. Burning out in the middle of the exam can be just as damaging and destructive as failing to properly prepare for it. The key to doing well in this exam is staying mentally sharp from the start of the paper to the end. What really worked well for me when I sat the corporate reporting exam, I took a 1-minute break to refocus between each of the requirements. So I took a 1-minute break between requirement 1 and requirement 2, and then a second 1-minute break between requirement 2 and requirement 3. This helped me relax, refocus, and it almost acted as a bit of a psychological transition between the requirements. I was leaving the previous requirement behind and then allowing myself to refocus and realign to get ready for the next requirement. During that minute, take a bit of time to just breathe, sit, relax, and get ready for the next requirement. The other thing I would say is, once you get into the exam, if it feels tough, don't worry, that's completely normal. Don't panic if it's a hard exam. Everyone else will be finding it difficult too. You definitely won't be alone. Just focus on your time management, focus on building out your plan, and then just get writing. Keep moving forward and progressing through the exam. Everyone else is going to be finding it just as challenging as you are. So if you do get into corporate reporting and you find yourself starting to panic, just remember that everyone else is feeling the exact same way as you are. Panic will waste time while others are writing, so try and suppress the panic as best as you can and just get pen to paper, keep making progress through the exam, and eventually that anxiety will start to subside. Cool, so that's some tips, some advice to get you ready for the corporate reporting exam. Hopefully that was all helpful. To summarise, time management. You need to stay on top of your time management during the exam, because if you run out of time to answer a requirement like question 3, then your likelihood of failing is going to increase substantially. Refresh FAR and audit and assurance content early. A lot of the material at corporate reporting is going to build upon what you learnt at the professional level, so it's important to make sure you have a really strong foundations in place and can recall what you learnt at the professional level, because like a lot of what you're going to learn at corporate reporting builds upon that knowledge. Use a 3-step process to process financial reporting adjustments. Make a clear plan for each requirement. Planning is super important in this exam. It's going to help save you time and prevent you wasting 20-30 minutes of your exam flicking between the scenario and your answer. Use your notes smartly. Don't waste too much time in the open book, but use it for those key topic areas. Keep the open book close, keep it on your lap, make sure it's tabbed up. Prioritise high weight financial reporting topics in your revision. Practice audit and procedure questions, make sure you're clear on all of the audit topics. Don't deprioritise audit completely. I know the accounting side is the more technically demanding and conceptually challenging area of corporate reporting, but audit still makes up 40%, so it's still super important. And finally, pace yourself. This exam is 3.5 hours, it's long, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna get tired towards the end, so pace yourself, take breaks during the exam to refocus and realign, and just keep going. If you've got the corporate reporting exam coming up, I wish you the best of luck for it. You're gonna absolutely smash it. If you like the video, please smash the like button and consider subscribing. I'm making tons of videos about the ACA and making courses for all 15 of the exams, so it'd be great to have you come along for this journey. I'll see you guys in the next video.